Sentry mode activated. Target acquired.
Hey there hunters, and welcome back to the Gunners Guild. On today's agenda, we're going to cover another segment of the light bowguns, today being raw light bowguns. Elemental will be covered in another video, so that means we're going to be going over normals, pierce, and spread setups. So let's just get into it. Starting off today, we're going to be doing normal light bowguns. Normals have always been in an awkward spot in World because of three factors. One is that they have lower motion value compared to spreads and pierce with adequate enough hits, so that's already kind of lame. The second is that you can't make good use of range damage mods, and if you're using close range mods, well, you're directly competing with spread at that point, and spread damage is much better than normal damage. And the third is because of, well, the first two. In order for normals to stand out, they'd really need to have a blatantly overpowered bowgun. Like in base games world, Terroth Blitz support was light bowgun that could use rapid fire normal 2s, and it was fucking amazing because it had a clip size of 8, which is already absurd for light bowgun, and it had recoil 1, and it had fast reload. And of course, it could even use a close range mod. The gun was insane. Right now in Iceborne, we don't have anything like that, so normals are kind of left in the shadows of spread. That being said, they still have a niche. You can play them off at a much safer distance compared to spread, and the damage is pretty much never going to be better than spread, but it's at least comparable to spread 2s, and if you want a safe playstyle, this is definitely the way to go. The damage isn't awful, it's just not the best. So currently in Iceborne, we don't run normal 2s because they're pretty bad, and Ghost, probably being one of the best rapid fire normal 2 guns thanks to its affinity, is still bad because of its horrible raw and its a rare 11 weapon. What we do use is normal 3s though. You have a few options for the normals, the first being Basil Core. Now Goose's light bowgun is fairly bad on paper due to it being rare 11 and having negative affinity, but its extra raw really makes up for it. With adequate enough sets, you can actually still reach 100% affinity on weak zones, and trust me, you have plenty of options for this set as well. True Spare Shot versus Spare Shot ends up being about the same effective DPS, and you can also drop Weakness Exploit and get Max Might if you want, since you should be able to keep Max Might on most of the time. Now with 3 recoil mods, you can get normal 3s down to recoil 2, which is fantastic, and then the last mod is pretty much either going to be a reload mod, which gets you fast reload, or a close range mod for that extra 20% damage. On paper, the close range mod is just a little bit better because 20% damage is just a little bit better than fast reload, but I'll leave that up for you to choose. Being on fast reload means that obviously you can evade more stuff, and you don't have to worry about sticking in close range distance. Since you're getting recoil mods, it also makes stickies a bit better, so you can use those for some KOs if you want to as well. The other options you have here is the Jagger's light bowgun. This being a rare 10 weapon means it gets way more mod slots and you can pack on that juicy attack 4. For the most part, you're going to be getting the exact same damage with this as the Basil light bowgun, and they both have para 2s, but Basil has stickies as well. To be honest, I'm not seeing much of a reason to run Jagger's over Basil Core, other than the fact that the Jagger's has a level 3 slot, which is pretty nice, but you can still build the same sets with Basil. Plus you get more stickies out of it, so I mean, yeah, I'd go with Basil. Moving on to Pierce. Now Pierce got a nice buff in Iceborne, not only with the slight motion value increase, but also in the form of power barrels. Pierce damage is actually pretty solid right now, and of course it can be used at a huge variety of ranges, just make sure you bring your ballistics decorations. It's still pretty niche on what monsters you should use it for, but basically anything that's got both wings counting as one hit zone for Tenderizing gets melted, and also things with large bodies like Brute Wyverns also just get destroyed. You want to make sure you have as much as your Pierce getting a juicy hit zone, so it's fine to forgo the head and just tenderize the body in some cases. Some monsters like Tigrex and Nargacuga topple on their arms, so tenderizing those and piercing straight from arm to arm is probably just as good. Now as far as Pierce ammo goes, we pretty much only use Pierce 2s because they function pretty close to Pierce 3s with the power barrel, and light bowguns don't really have good Pierce 3 options, at least, well, not good enough. For the most part, rapid fire Pierce 2s are the go-to, but you can also use normal Pierces since they can be on recoil 1. For Pierce bowguns, there's really just one solid option for each type. Garuga for rapid fire Pierce 2 because Garuga. I mean, there are a lot of bowguns that can run rapid fire Pierce 2, but Garuga is just the best hands down. Has a ton of extra ammo options as well in case you need it. Now thanks to Nargacuga headpiece being perfect for Pierce, True Spare Shot is pretty much always going to be your best bet here. The other good thing here is that you really don't need Weakness Exploit. You can run Affinity Augments, which brings your weapon space affinity to 50%, grab Critical Eye 7 and you're at 90% already, then pop on Agitator and boom, you're done. Of course, you still want to tenderize for better hit zones, but at least you don't have to worry about Weakness Exploit on the set. So you can just get more raw out of it. Plus your consistency is going to go way up. All around, it's just good. For standard Pierce 2s, you probably want to use sticks just because it's just all around solid because it has innate spare shot, which frees up your charm slot. So you can put in free agitator or attack 4 or something like that. Standard Pierce 2s work fairly well in base game and you're pretty much just better now. So if you want to avoid to evade to reload mods, I'd say give these a try. 3 recoil mods and a power barrel puts you on recoil 1 and normal reload, which is just fine. Now remember that the damage isn't going to be as solid as Garuga, since Garuga gets a free mod slot to use either a close range mod or whatever, but it's still pretty dang solid, and being that it's on recoil 1, it's going to have a faster rate of fire than the rapid fire Pierce 2s on recoil 2. So yeah, that's basically the best options there. Now let's move on to spreads. Now I already covered spreads in a prior video, so let me just recap it here. There are a ton of spread options, like a shit ton. And as good as spreads is, the claw and tenderizing parts for light bowgun kind of keeps this weapon's damage down, especially because most of the new monsters have awful head hit zones for gunners. Now that being said, spread is still pretty strong. There are a few different playstyles you can go with this as well, which is pretty cool. So the first up, we have spread 2s, which are surprisingly viable right now. You can run standard spread 2s on either Namiel or Bowguns bowguns. With the new augment mods, Bowguns ends up being the same effective raw as Namiel, but it also has access to all the status ammo, so it's pretty much a better choice now. You can run 1 recoil mod and 3 close range mods for more damage per shot, or flip it and run 1 close range mod and 3 recoils, which puts you at recoil 1, which means you have a much faster rate of fire. Both operate on normal reload though. The next option for spread 2 is rapid fire spread 2s. Now, these have some crazy damage output, but if you've tried them, you'd realize that getting all these spreads to actually land is rather difficult. So you're not always going to have your optimal damage output. The other downside here is that you have to run evade reload mods, which limits everything else on the build. Free element 2 is actually not that big of an investment, but you don't have to do it since you're only evading to get 2 ammo back on the reload. So having a clip size of 3 is kind of a waste at times, but I still like it. True spare shot is a godsend here though. Now your options for rapid fire spread 2 are mostly just Luna Ruin and Volcana. Now Ruin's 2 level 2 slots give it a slight edge in set optimization, letting it finish peak performance for 10 more raw, but honestly, Volcana is probably still the better bet. It has usable status ammos as backup, and I don't think 10 raw is better than that. I just hate seeing peak performance 2, I'd much rather kept that off. Now and finally, spread 3s. Again, we still have a ton of options here. First off is with slow reload spread 3s. You can rock Rajang Bowgun, because it's easily the hardest hitting thing. It's comparable to heavy bowguns at times, although its reload is definitely a cause for concern. You really need to find your openings to pull off slow reload nowadays, and your DPS is going to suffer because of it. You can go with Shower Light Bowgun as well for its status ammos, but it just can't compete with Rajang damage. You can also run Val's Light Bowgun with slow reload and tack on a countermine mod, but that's also an even larger drop in damage there. But again, playstyle is up to you. For normal reload spread 3s, you should probably run Bowguns since the extra mods give it a little bit of pushing damage. The lack of close range mods also kind of suck here though. It's a pretty big DPS loss. However, you do get normal reloads which feel fantastic on spread 3 light bowguns. Bowguns also comes with all the status ammo you could ever want, even usable stickies. So yeah, it's definitely got some things going on here for it. I like it. And the last one we have is evade reload spread 3s. Of course, you know what I'm talking about. It's the Garuga bowgun, because literally it can do everything and anything in the game. It's just a fucking crazy bowgun. Now, Garuga on evade reloads gives you a much better overall DPS because we can bypass the slow reloads that spread 3s have. Plus, we also get to use the close range mod, which makes it really crazy, and that's what kind of seals the deal here. Evade reload has its own share of problems though, but if you can keep your reloads up, then this is probably going to be your best route for DPS. This is arguably the best overall setup in terms of consistency. I also have been playing with variations of this, like going poison in spread or sticky in spread. Ultimately though, lowering your spread DPS isn't really a good idea, but poison can work. Stickies is probably just a better off as a means to KO, and rather just dump all your spread into the monster when they're down, so don't bother pumping your sticky damage if you're going to go this route. Now if you're wondering about stickies, well that's been done in my sticky video, so go watch that one. Also, I'm pretty sure I left out some other options here, but these are kind of the best that I've seen so far. And these are also my personal choices. Now hopefully we do get some better normal and pierce options later down the line. Well, that's all for now. Thank you all for watching, and good luck out there hunters and whatever you may be hunting.